Welcome to the final lesson of Week 4 in the Grant Architect course, where we bring together everything you have learned about logic models and theories of change. In this capstone lesson, we focus on review and refinement of your logic model, ensuring it is complete, coherent, and compelling before you move forward with your proposal development. A strong logic model is the foundation of a strong proposal and demonstrates clear thinking about your program design. Rushing this step leads to problems throughout the proposal and during implementation. By the end of this lesson, you will understand how to systematically review your logic model for completeness and quality, refine elements that need improvement based on specific criteria, and prepare your logic model for integration into your proposal with confidence that it represents your best thinking. The review process should be systematic rather than casual if you want to catch all potential issues. Comprehensive coverage checks that all logic model components are present and appropriately developed. Inputs, activities, outputs, outcomes at all levels, assumptions, and external factors should all appear in your model. Missing components create gaps that reviewers will notice and question. Internal consistency verifies that elements connect logically from left to right or top to bottom depending on your format. Activities should plausibly produce outputs. Outputs should plausibly lead to outcomes. Each connection should make sense when examined critically. Ask yourself whether a skeptical reviewer would agree that each connection is reasonable. External consistency checks alignment with funder requirements and field standards. Does your logic model address what the notice of funding opportunity requires? Does it reflect evidence-based practices in your field? Are outcome categories and timeframes appropriate for your program type and intensity? Quality assessment evaluates whether each element is well developed and clearly articulated. Are activities specific enough to understand what will happen? Are outcomes measurable and realistic given your program design? Generic or vague elements suggest insufficient planning. Using a systematic checklist ensures comprehensive review and catches issues that casual review might miss. Inputs checklist asks, are all required resources identified completely? Are sources realistic and documented? Is timing for resource availability clear? Will inputs be sufficient for planned activities at the scale you propose? Review each input against these questions systematically. Activities checklist asks, are activities specific enough that staff could implement them based on your description? Do activities clearly connect to outputs in a logical way? Are activities feasible given your inputs and organizational capacity? Is the dosage or intensity appropriate for the outcomes you expect to achieve? Outputs checklist asks, are output targets realistic based on your inputs and activities? Are outputs measurable with data you can actually collect? Do outputs represent meaningful program production rather than just effort? Have you specified how you will count and document each output? Outcomes checklist asks, are outcome timeframes appropriate for your program duration and intensity? Are outcomes measurable with instruments you have access to and expertise to use? Are outcomes attributable to your program, or could many other factors explain them? Is there evidence that programs like yours can actually achieve these outcomes with similar populations? Common issues frequently undermine logic models and should be actively addressed during review. Vague activities lack specificity about what actually happens in your program. Providing support tells reviewers nothing useful about your program. Change it to providing weekly, 1-hour individual counseling sessions using cognitive behavioral therapy techniques delivered by licensed counselors. Specific activities can be implemented, evaluated, and replicated. Unrealistic outputs claim production levels that are implausible given the inputs and activities described. If you have one staff person working part-time, you cannot serve 500 participants intensively. Match output targets to actual capacity based on realistic workload calculations and comparable program benchmarks. Disconnected outcomes are claims not logically connected to your activities and outputs. If your activities involve job training but your outcomes focus on improved mental health, the logic is unclear. Either revise activities to include mental health services or revise outcomes to focus on employment. Ensure every outcome can be traced back through outputs and activities to inputs. Missing assumptions leave critical conditions unstated. If your program requires participants to have stable housing, transportation, or childcare, but you never mention these requirements, reviewers may wonder if you understand what success requires. Surfacing assumptions demonstrate sophisticated understanding of what it takes for your program to succeed. The refinement process improves your logic model through systematic revision based on review findings. Activity refinement adds detail and specificity to each activity description. Rather than case management, describe providing bi-weekly 90-minute case management sessions focused on housing stability, employment preparation, and benefit enrollment delivered by case managers with bachelor degrees in social work. Specific activities enable consistent implementation and meaningful evaluation. Output adjustment aligns targets with realistic capacity based on careful workload analysis. Calculate how many participants one staff person can serve effectively given the activities you describe. Adjust output targets to reflect what is actually achievable with available resources. Overpromising and underdelivering damages your credibility with funders and your ability to secure future funding. Outcome revision improves clarity and measurability of each outcome statement. Ensure each outcome specifies who changes, how much change you expect, and over what time frame. Revise vague outcomes into specific, measurable statements that can actually be assessed through your evaluation plan. Assumption addition makes critical conditions explicit so reviewers understand what must be true for your program to work. After reviewing each logic model connection, add assumptions that identify prerequisites for success. Visible assumptions demonstrate thoughtful program design and realistic expectations about what it takes to achieve your outcomes. Outcome refinement typically requires the most careful attention because outcomes are what funders are investing in. Specificity improvement makes outcomes concrete and measurable rather than vague and aspirational. Change improved self-esteem to participants demonstrate increased self-efficacy scores on the Rosenberg scale. Change better employment outcomes to participants obtain employment in their field of training within 90 days of program completion. Specific outcomes can be measured, vague outcomes cannot. Realism check assesses whether outcomes match program intensity and duration. A single workshop cannot produce lasting behavior change regardless of how well it is designed. A year-long intensive program can reasonably claim more ambitious outcomes than a brief intervention. Match your outcome claims to what research suggests is achievable with your level of intervention. Measurement planning verifies you can actually assess each outcome you claim. If you cannot describe specifically how you will measure an outcome, either revise the outcome to be measurable or remove it from your logic model. Funders expect you to document achievement of the outcomes you promise. Evidence connection ensures each outcome has supporting research or organizational experience. Can you cite studies showing similar programs achieve this outcome with comparable populations? If no evidence supports an outcome, either find evidence, generate preliminary evidence through a pilot, or reconsider whether to include it in your logic model. Stakeholder review provides essential feedback from people with different perspectives on your program design. Staff feedback from program implementers provides practical insight into feasibility and implementation challenges. Staff know whether proposed activities are actually feasible with available resources and time. They can identify practical problems in your design that desk-based planners miss. Their buy-in also increases likelihood of successful implementation when funded. Partner review ensures collaborator contributions are accurately represented and that partners agree with how their role is described. Partners should confirm their commitment and verify that what you say they will contribute is what they actually intend to provide. Misrepresenting partner contributions can create problems during implementation and damage important relationships. Participant input ensures your logic model reflects how change actually happens from the perspective of those experiencing it. People living with the problem you address have valuable insight into what helps and what barriers exist. Their perspective may reveal flawed assumptions in your theory of change that outsiders cannot see. External review by colleagues or consultants not involved in development provides fresh perspective. Fresh eyes catch problems that those too close to the work overlook. Ask reviewers unfamiliar with your program whether the logic model makes sense, and whether they can follow the connections between elements easily. Artificial intelligence excels at consistency checking between documents. Cross-document review uses artificial intelligence to compare logic model to narrative, paste both into artificial intelligence, and ask it to identify differences or inconsistencies. Artificial intelligence catches mismatches humans miss. Terminology consistency identifies vocabulary variations. Artificial intelligence can flag when you call something different names in different places. Consistent terminology improves clarity. Number verification checks quantity alignment. Artificial intelligence can verify that numbers in your logic model match numbers in your narrative. Counting errors are common, and artificial intelligence catches them quickly. Gap detection finds missing elements. Artificial intelligence can identify logic model items not mentioned in narrative or narrative elements not represented in the logic model. Comprehensive coverage improves proposals. Effective prompting for consistency checking requires complete information. Provide both documents by sharing your logic model and narrative text with artificial intelligence. Complete documents enable comprehensive checking. Partial documents yield partial checking. Specify check type by requesting specific consistency verification. Ask artificial intelligence to verify that every logic model element appears in the narrative, that terminology matches, that numbers align. Specific requests yield specific results. Ask for list by requesting itemized inconsistencies. A list format makes issues easy to address one by one. Numbered items support systematic resolution. Request recommendations by asking how to resolve issues. Beyond identifying problems, artificial intelligence can suggest whether to update the logic model, the narrative, or both. Recommendations accelerate revision. Artificial intelligence assists with logic model visual design in several ways. Layout suggestions recommend visual structures. Describe your logic model components, and artificial intelligence can suggest how to arrange them visually. Which elements should be grouped? What flow direction works best? Text optimization shortens content for visual fit. Logic model boxes need concise text. Artificial intelligence can help you condense descriptions while preserving meaning. Tight text improves visual clarity. Color recommendations suggest color schemes. Artificial intelligence can recommend accessible color combinations that distinguish components while maintaining readability. Professional color use enhances appearance. Accessibility review checks for readability issues. Artificial intelligence can evaluate whether your design choices support accessibility. Contrast, font size, and color choices all affect accessibility. Understanding artificial intelligence limitations is essential for appropriate use. Context understanding is limited because artificial intelligence lacks your specific organizational knowledge. Your mission, history, capacity, and relationships are unknown to artificial intelligence. You must evaluate suggestions against organizational reality. Funder relationships are unknown to artificial intelligence. What has worked with this funder before? What do they value? Your relationship knowledge informs decisions artificial intelligence cannot make. Community nuance cannot be fully captured by artificial intelligence. Local conditions, cultural factors, and community relationships require human understanding. Artificial intelligence generalizes while you must be specific. Professional judgment means artificial intelligence suggestions need expert evaluation. Artificial intelligence generates possibilities. You determine which possibilities fit your situation. Never accept artificial intelligence suggestions without critical assessment. Quality control for artificial intelligence generated content is essential. Verify facts by checking all factual claims and citations. Artificial intelligence sometimes generates plausible sounding but inaccurate information. Every factual claim needs verification. Citations must be checked for accuracy and relevance. Test logic by ensuring if-then connections actually hold. Artificial intelligence may suggest causal connections that seem reasonable but are not supported by evidence. Evaluate each connection critically. Evaluate fit by assessing whether suggestions match your context. Artificial intelligence suggestions are generic. Your program is specific. Determine whether general suggestions apply to your particular situation. Review voice by ensuring writing sounds like your organization. Artificial intelligence has its own style. Edit to match your organizational voice and communication approach. Consistency matters. Integrating artificial intelligence into your logic model workflow follows a progression. Brainstorm phase uses artificial intelligence to generate initial ideas. When starting logic model development, artificial intelligence can help you think comprehensively about components, approaches, and connections. Cast a wide net initially. Draft phase uses artificial intelligence to create first versions. Once you have direction, artificial intelligence can draft logic model narratives, theory of change statements, and other text. Drafts accelerate writing. Review phase uses artificial intelligence to check consistency. After drafting, artificial intelligence can compare documents, identify gaps, and flag inconsistencies. Automated checking complements human review. Final phase requires human review and approval. No matter how much artificial intelligence contributes, human judgment makes final decisions. You are responsible for your proposal. Artificial intelligence assists, but humans approve. Here is a practical exercise to apply what you have learned. Step 1. Write a prompt describing your program for artificial intelligence. Include program purpose, target population, activities, and intended outcomes. Make it specific enough for artificial intelligence to generate relevant suggestions. Step 2. Ask artificial intelligence to suggest logic model components. Request inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes organized by category. Ask for theory of change, if-then statements connecting components. Step 3. Evaluate artificial intelligence suggestions against your knowledge. Which suggestions fit your context? Which are inappropriate for your situation? What important elements did artificial intelligence miss? Apply your expertise to assess artificial intelligence output. Step 4. Integrate useful suggestions into your logic model. Incorporate relevant artificial intelligence suggestions into your work. Edit for voice, accuracy, and fit. Artificial intelligence contributes raw material that you refine into your final product. Let us summarize the key learning from Week 4. Logic models provide visual representation of program theory. They show the logical progression from resources through actions to results. Every grant writer should master logic model development. Core components include inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes. Understanding each component and how they connect is fundamental to effective program design and proposal writing. Theory of change explains why programs produce outcomes. Beyond showing what happens, theory of change articulates the causal mechanisms that make your program work. Strong theory strengthens proposals. Artificial intelligence can assist throughout logic model development, from brainstorming components to checking consistency. Used appropriately, artificial intelligence accelerates work and improves quality, while human judgment remains essential. In Week 5, we will build on this foundation by exploring goals, objectives, and activities. You will learn to write measurable targets that translate logic model elements into specific, achievable commitments. Congratulations on completing Week 4 of the Grant Architect course.